But anyway, Ben, would you just raise your hand, please? Everybody may or may not know Ben Mandelstein. Ben Mandelstein is our co-sponsor for the Brazos. Because remember, I'm not calling it Village Condos anymore. But for those of you that are in Village Condos, it's AKA the Brazos. And the signs go up this week, by the way. So it'll officially, from the highway, it'll even say the Brazos. So thank you for coming, Ben. Anand, raise your hand quickly. Anand Upadhyay is our co-sponsor at Southwest. Doing great, by the way. So thank you for being here. Anand's just, I call him a natural resource, but I probably should let that go as it is. He just does a little bit of everything. Of course, Julian, everybody, if you don't know Julian Alexander, I'm just going to call him Special Projects Coordinator because he does a little bit of everything. He underwrites and finds our property, so he's sourcing the deals. He and I will be going to walk a property tomorrow.
And I'll be scrubbing toilets in the afternoon.
Yeah, and in fact, even before that, as soon as my phone rings, I'm going to hand it to him, and there's a plumber on the way to handle an issue up at Suite 3000 in the building. So property management never stops.
I got to say something. You guys have been to weddings before, right? And you know that dance where they start calling out how many years you've been married, and then you have to sit down, right? And so the last one standing has been married the longest.
Okay.
You've seen those, right?
No.
Right? Who has?
I have.
There you go. All right. So along those lines, I think we ought to have something similar to that. Is who comes to our meetings and brings the most guests, friends, and invitees?
Okay.
And Tracy will. Tracy will. He gets it.
If Tracy brought you tonight, raise your hand. Or she's responsible for you being here.
That girl is.
It could be from 10 years ago, or it could be from just yesterday.
She rolls. There's always an entourage.
I know it. You notice they never sit with her, though. What's that all about? I don't know what the...
So she
Not
can,
sure.
They're all men.
she can keep them in line.
Oh, and they're all men. Okay. Well, we want to welcome everybody online as well. I think we've got a little over 100 people online, so we'll go ahead and get right into business. I would like a show of hands, though. I'm sorry. I said I was going to introduce everybody. John, would you just raise your hand? John is, how do I describe John? John is, do we want to say market maker? Is that what we're calling? That's what Darwin is calling him. John is going to be a liaison, boots on the ground, do everything, touch base with real estate people because he's already got a huge connection in the Austin market because we're really searching hard in the Austin market. So we're going to call him a market maker. But thank you for being here, attending the meeting with us.
He drove
All the way from Austin, yeah.
today.
Okay.
Fought all that traffic, and he's going back over tonight. That's called dedication.
Dedication. Is there anybody else this is your first time here? Okay. Joe, thank you for coming. I know I talked to you on the phone a couple times, but I'd just love to get a chance to meet you if I haven't already met you before you leave tonight. Introduce yourself to Julian and I. We're just, again, willing to answer any questions that you might have. Jeff's been here for 2 days, so I'm a little bit worn out on questions from Mr. Young. But anyway, let's get right down to it. You guys know me. If you've been here a while, welcome. But I like to have a little fun sometimes before we start. So we're going to do a little bit of Did You Know? Now, I promise you, as I've always promised you for years now, these are facts. I do not make these up. They come straight off the internet, so you know they're true. I not only get them off the internet, I research to see if they are true. Because truly, these are absolutely true facts. They're not facts if they're not true, right? But did you know, how many of you knew, some of you may not be willing to admit, that high heels were originally meant for men? Did you know that? Tracy knew that. Okay, well, Tracy knew that. When high heel shoes first came into fashion in the 10th century, they were intended for men. It wasn't until the 18th century that women became the dominant wearers of high heel shoes. So if you learned nothing else tonight, you learned. Did men all used to be short? I don't know. But I don't really know what the purpose of high heels are for women either, so I don't know. Did you know, and this one really strikes me in the heart because this hurts me. Did you know that cows don't like Willie Nelson? It is absolutely true that dairy cow will produce up to 3% more milk when they listen to music. However, when they listen to Willie, it just doesn't happen. They need something a little more upbeat. Again, these are facts. This is not. I'm sure Willie would not appreciate me advertising that, but cows don't like Willie Nelson. It's really country western music, but I took that part out. They don't like any country, but I grew up on that, so I kind of took that out. Did you know that there's a technical name for fear of long words? Hippopotamonstrossus quipadelophilia. Phobia. So see, I didn't get it right the first time. Hippopotamonstrossus quipadelophilia is fear of long words. It truly is it's a diagnosable condition.
Well, distribution is a long word, and I'm not afraid of that one.
Not at all. Not at all. Well, thanks for indulging me for a couple of minutes. I just like to have a little bit of fun before we start. So without further ado, let's look at the agenda real quick. You've already heard me say welcome. I'm not going to say a lot about our guest speaker. I'm just going to bring him up and let him speak, although I will, again, just a brief introduction. Mr. Jeff Young is visiting us today from Florida, West Palm Beach area, right?
Yep.
Suffice it to say that Jeff has a very unique occupation. That's all I'm going to say about his occupation, but it's a very unique occupation. It's very interesting, and even though he flew in to ask a lot of questions this last couple of days, he's probably gotten more from me about how do you do that, why do you do that, all that kind of stuff. And again, I'm not going to steal your thunder because I'm going to let you speak all about it. But Jeff has been a longtime friend of Darwin. And if I understand correctly, Jeff, even when Jeff was in high school, lived with Darwin and his family. Okay? So that's really, see, that's all I'm going to go. I'm not going to steal his thunder because he's got a really interesting story to tell, and that story also has a really unique message that hits home to. If you're in here, the message is going to hit home to you as well because you've already been doing a lot of what he's doing as well. So having said that, Jeff is, and this is the only tease I'm going to make, Jeff is going to tell you that how he took $70,000 and turned that into $552,000 in 8 years. I'm not going to tell you how. I'm going to let Jeff tell you how. When Jeff gets done, we'll do some announcements, just some quick announcement, because we have some really exciting news to share. Not that you don't already know it, because we've sent it out via email. We like to tell you right up front as good things happen. But we're gonna pass out some big checks tonight, and I'm even gonna pass out a real check. And then we'll do some Q&A as well at the end of the meeting. So without further ado, please indulge Mr. Jeff Young here so that I don't steal his thunder, and he can tell you all about his story. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, hello everyone. So like he was saying, I did fly in from Florida just a couple days ago. I've been down in Florida for pretty much the whole 8 years that I've been doing the investing. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. If I run into someone at my kid's baseball game, they say, Jeff, what do you do? I might say, I work at a bank. That stops the conversation. We usually are able to watch the game and I don't have to talk anymore. If I want to talk to them a little bit, I say I work at an iBank, and they say, oh, so you do something in the internet? Okay, well that's kind of cool. They see and they think, oh, internet, iPods, whatever, electronic. Again, quick conversation, able to watch the rest of the game. Now, if the game's not that exciting or I want to meet some new friends, I tell them I take eyes out of dead people. I work at an iBank, EYE, meaning we actually do supply eyes for transplant and for research through our organization. And that's something I've been passionate about for a very long time. So even in all the way through school, I was always interested in science. I never cared about numbers. I wanted to help things and people, and thought, oh, I want to be a veterinarian. That's great. I want to help animals. And then found out it was more about owning a business and being self-employed than actually getting to do medical science-y stuff. So I happened to be in college working at a hospital, and first person I saw die became a donor. And I remember very clearly, I took the patient down to the morgue, and about an hour later they call and say, hey, Jeff, can you bring her back up to the OR? I'm like, hold it. What's going on here? are you pulling my leg? I mean, and sure enough, they needed her back in the OR, and they were able to help others through tissue donation and eye donations. So something I very quickly said, oh, this is perfect for me. I will be working for someone else. I have enough schooling to really get started in this career path already. I can still do more school because that's not going to hold me back. And I'm not going to come out with $400,000 worth of student loans. So, and I won't be dealing with Medicare, Medicaid reimbursements, and like staffing issues and HR, all that fun stuff. So, if you don't know, which most people when I call them about donation don't know this, once your heart is stopped, there's still a lot of good that you can do through transplant potential, and that's cadaveric tissues. If you've ever known anyone or heard of anyone in sports that needed an ACL repair, came with a cadaveric sample or a tissue to go into that ligament is being replaced. As well as that, there's cardiovascular tissue. You think, oh, why would you take a heart out of a dead person? That's not going to do them any good. Well, the valves, I mean, there's a lot of congenital defects where people need a valve replacement. So they have some options, but in many cases, human option is the best replacement. I did that type of recovery at the beginning when I was at UT Southwestern. So I was here in Dallas, cut my teeth on doing that in the cases. And it was wonderful for a time. And then I got hooked on the natural beauty of Oregon. So ended up in Oregon working for an eye-only bank. And that's where I've been in that industry or that specialty of transplants since. However, what they didn't tell me was I'm still going to have long days, late nights, long weekends, last minute, get there. So I work a 40-hour scheduled week, plus I take calls. So at that game where I'm interested in watching my kid play baseball, I might end up having to I'm going to throw in my scrubs, run to this hospital, do this recovery. I might be back in time to see the ninth inning or whatever. So it has been a lot of commitment. And that kind of helped focus me on my career and what I was doing and what I was passionate about. But it didn't really help me financially. Like, it didn't get me on a career path that was going to provide for future income and future wealth and really getting to that trading time for money situation where I can be at the game, I can say no to a case, and not feel like I'm losing out in my pocketbook. So most of you guys have seen this equation. Those of you online, hopefully showing that right now to you. If you haven't seen this, it's a very powerful four square. It reminds me of when I was a kid and they used to bounce the ball and they would bounce it over there. And I don't know if anyone's played four square since they were in third or fourth grade, but that's what this reminds me of. But this is what I was doing. I was trading my time for money. And you only have a limited resource of this, so I was only getting a limited resource of that. And I knew I didn't want to be self-employed. I didn't want to be one of those physicians that was running a business and dealing with that. I didn't even know what a business owner was and how it was different than this. So once I started learning about this, and then I was like, well, I met this guy, or I knew this guy, and he's like, Jeff, what about this? What do you think about doing some investing? I'm like, great. Well, yeah, I want to be rich like you. Who doesn't? Like, I want to have free time and go places, and but I don't have any cash. How am I supposed to get this started? I'd been working almost 15, maybe even longer years, putting in those 40-hour weeks, putting in those call shifts, working on weekends, being in a morgue or in an OR doing recoveries all night long. And I hadn't built up anything. I felt like my net assets were here. You can see that. It's, $110,000 between both retirement and my cash. This was in 2011, so really not that long ago. So I was, mid to late 30s. And at this point, I was like, I just got married. I was in the process of moving to Florida. I should have just got married. That would have been the most important one.
Especially if your wife's online.
Exactly. Starting a new job here in Florida, and happened to be stopping through Dallas. Spent the night at Darwin's. He said, oh, well, how about this? I was like, whatever. How do I do it? I don't have any money. He said, well, you can take this right here, this little retirement amount, and we can work with that. We can grow that. We can nurture it and, kind of bring those little babies along. We can take that retirement money and put it right here. Yeah, buy one of those shirts. Put some of that money to work for me. So it didn't really make sense to me, but I trusted him. I trusted his family. I've known them most of my life. Knowing Big Dar and the way he operated and how he managed his properties across his portfolio, how he would fly from California here for Christmas parties with his staff, his management staff here in Dallas, knew all their names, was just a super great guy. And then Darwin comes along. The apple didn't fall far from the tree. This guy is great. And so we got started. Well, here's the timeline. It looks really kind of tight, a lot of information here, but this might be the most important slide of the presentation as far as my fiscal performance. So hopefully this is also available for you guys online. These blue ones are purchases. Remember, I started with $70,000 in my retirement. My first property, $50,000. Great, had a self-directed IRA, was able to get that money started to work. So now I've got an investment, which, okay. A year later, we got $28,000 out of that 50, so over half my money back. Plus we started cash flow. I took the other 20, so now I have this plus the other 20, I purchased Park Row. Now those of you in the room that know about Park Row, you already know what's going to happen over here. Everything's going to be great. But that's all I have in this entire cash flow timeline is that $70,000. So what you see is we had the second purchase, another refinance, cash out supplemental, which you'll probably hear about, and then another purchase, another refinance, and finally one of those big checks that Brian's talking about came in December 18. That was a Park Row. Again, instead of taking this money and doing anything else with it, I got it back to work. So all these employees just kept working and working and working and working. Look at the times, 8 years, 8 years. Here's my values at this point. So the crossings, I think, I don't know if you want to present it, but. Okay, here's my check for the crossings, $142,000. That's just my check for closing, $142,000. But remember, I'd already gotten 28 here. I gotten 20 here, plus all that money was already making me more money. So really the numbers you look at is this, plus, so the 70 I had to start with, to this right here. So Riverbend has already had a refinance, but the value is still here. Kainani, as you may have seen, went in February of 19. We have it. It's not under contract at this point, but we hope to get it remarketed. And that's a pretty fair wild ass guess right there. And here we are. Yeah. So the keys to this growth, just real quick. Time. Don't touch your capital, always reinvest. So all that money, luckily since it was in my retirement, it was real easy not to touch. I've been doing the same thing with some of my cash out of pocket, and I tell you what, when those checks come in, I take a picture of it and put it in the drawer. I'm like, let's go out to eat tonight. Put your dollars to work, and the velocity. Velocity is huge, huge, huge. Had I just been in on the crossing and gotten this 142 plus this 50 back, so I'd be at like 225 return, but instead I'm at double that because of the velocity of that cash. And so along with the value of my retirement, back in 2018, I started doing some stuff with my personal cash. And it's all doing this. It's growing and growing and growing and growing. So I have a retirement condo. I'm in on 3 different DGRE deals, Amber Vista, which is already refinanced. When Amber Vista refinance came out, I was able to put money down on a waterfront condo. That's a vacation location. I'm in the Corners and Village Oaks. So that's how I got to a 7-figure net worth. I would like to say thank you to my family. This is my son, Lucas. This is my son, Mason, my wife, and myself, our family photo. So I'd like to thank them for allowing me to be here tonight, and I know it's been hard on you, Heather. I appreciate your help. So does anyone have any questions about, I mean, it's a lot. I mean, there was the stuff I was passionate about with work and with transplant and the medical-y stuff. But any questions about that part?
Quick question.
You got the mic? So the people online can hear?
Was the retirement, was it a 401k or was it like a self-directed IRA or like?
So luckily, Darwin hit me right at the best time because I was moving from one state to the other. So I had those funds that were still in an IRA. So once I moved, I was able to move the funds into a self-directed IRA. Recently, I've converted that to a solo 401k.
Gotcha.
And at the same time as I did that movement, I also did a conversion to a Roth. So that 550 whatever is going to grow with zero taxes. So what I make, I keep.
Okay. Did you have any effect of the U-bid on all this investment?
So I had UBIT hit me on one property, and that was Park Row. That's the big check.
Right.
Luckily, we were able to go back and look at some of the depreciation across the assets, consolidate that, put it against it. And then it sold in 2018. In 2019, some of the regulations allowed us to take some of that depreciation backwards. So that's when I learned, okay, now it's time to convert.
Gotcha. And was CPA doing your taxes for that one, or you were doing your own taxes for?
No. I mean, I don't look like a CPA.
No, I'm just saying.
No, I have someone that, yeah, I mean, I think paying for someone to do it the right way is, yeah, I didn't want to do any of that.
Got you. Thank you.
Of course.
We got a quick question online, then I'll pass around the microphone, but I want to back up a little bit because there's the three questions that came in were all the same question. So I'm going to, the question basically is paraphrasing. Are you saying that the 50 and the 20 you put with that accounts for all of the rest of this stream of money? So the 70K, or did you add to that as you were going along?
All right, Mo, let's make sure we have this one up on the screen.
It is. They can see it. Yep.
So this one, 70,000, that's it. That's why I separated this against my other part I was telling you about, the cash I started in 2018. That was totally separate. It's a little bit harder to track because it was some single-family residences that I had done some stuff with and had some gains there. This is only my retirement, and that's what I want to focus on because it's very clearly growing at an exponential rate. It's like that Fibonacci sequence where it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So I was seeing that growth because of that $70,000 and because I didn't take any out. It just kept growing and growing and growing. So that purchase.
That's a question for me because I did some quick math. Do you know what that is, average annual rate of return? I'm just figuring 8 years,
yeah.
July 2013 till 2021. What was your average annual rate of return from that original $70,000 that you did?
Well, if you fib it a little bit and take that 70 all the way up to the very beginning, which it wasn't actually placed, that 20 of it was still in the market. If you take that full 70 from the very beginning to the 552, that is an 80% annual return.
Wow.
80% annual return.
Would anybody sign up for that?
Yeah. Anybody else want in?
This was over 8 years, right?
Correct.
Over
8 years.
How much of that money is rhetorical? How much of that did you dip into, put in the Hip National Bank, and go out and buy yourself a little something?
That's why I kept it just to my retirement, is because all these retirement funds stayed in there. The velocity kept growing. The compound effect was 100% in effect. I wish I could say that about my personal. Like I said, we get that check. I scan it now for my personal, for my cash deals. And it's like, okay, let's go to a nice dinner tonight.
And the reason I bring that up, that's why I said rhetorical, is because it is paramount that you leave the money working.
Yes.
The minute you start dipping into the profits, you start diluting the power of the compound.
Yeah. And everybody saw, I mean, I was still like, this is what I do. I don't do any of this. This is just my money working. This is me working, taking out eyes, doing, my medical stuff that I'm trained, I'm experienced, this is my job. And you'd think that job might be a six-figure income, but it's not. I would love to say it was, but it provides, and we're able to live off that, and it's great, but it's, it's not my area of, investing is not my area of expertise. That's theirs. It's their experience, my opportunity. I was able to just like, here you go. I love that I can pick and choose the deals as they come up, but I have the faith in the Darwin German real estate team that what they bring to me is going to be a clear indication of what I'm going to expect from the returns. Their business plans are precise. I see that those last lines, what does a $100,000 investor expect, or what can they hope for? And luckily I've been blown away by all of them. Any other questions?
Questions? Yes. Let me get you the mic.
Jeff, how come you put $335,000 in that one kind?
We did that based on what we're marketing at a fair market value. What we had it, you're talking about K&Ani, correct? Yeah, just what the market would call for if it sells at market value. So obviously there's, like I said, the WAG, wild ass guess. But that seems to be pretty appropriate for where we're at right now.
The other thing that might need explaining too, Riverbend, he put 60 in Riverbend. Am I correct, Jeff?
Correct. I had originally put 60 because that's what I had invested, and we had gotten some of that back, but it was still a decent value.
Well, the important thing to remember, you might say 60 to 75 is not that big a deal. Keep in mind, you've already gotten about 45% of your money back if you're a Riverbend investor through the refinance and regular distributions. Plus, that's just every year we are asked by anyone that has money in a IRA. We have to do a valuation for them. Their company has to keep track of it. Says, okay, what's it worth? We don't tell them. We don't do, for example, what he did at K&Ani. That's a realistic number. But we just tell them, hey, this is what it's worth today. This is your share, what's worth today.
That's what you put
And
in.
exactly, based upon what you put in. It's not, the difference in that, Tracy, and the reason I'm pointing it out is Riverbend is, K&Ani is what we would expect. Riverbend is actually, again, I know I'm probably confusing you more than I'm explaining, but the bottom line, he's already got about 40% of his money back, and if you're in Riverbend, you have too. That's what it's worth basically today. We only give the value what it was when you put it in. In other words, we can't, the IRA doesn't want to hear about, okay, if you sell it, what's it worth? So, sorry, I may have made that more confusing than I intended to do, but any additional questions? And I promise, questions in regards to, Jeff taking $70,000 to $552,000 in 8 years, 80% average annual rate of return. I said that with enthusiasm, not disdain. But because I know many of you probably have questions about his unique job. I peppered him with questions just about different scenarios and stuff. But any other questions about this? Because I promise you we'll leave time at the end about questions about his unique job.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Stay up here if you will, Jeff. Stay up here if you will and help me. Okay. We realized that when Jeff got here this week, for those of you who are in the crossings, if there's anybody else that's here who's in crossing, we mailed out those checks last week. And then Jeff got here and says, I don't live in California. Where'd you send that check? So unfortunately, we sent $142,000 to California. Don't know where it's going to end up.
Hopefully it's in the fire.
So it's allowed me, though, a unique opportunity to actually hand Jeff. I don't get to actually present the checks very often. But again, that's $141,905.85. And again, that's his closing check. He still got, that's about 98% of what he's going to get from crossing for closing. We always hold a little bit of money back just to make sure we close the books, make sure all the bills are paid, and then you'll get another check. It won't be that big, I'm sorry, Jeff, but it'll still be a good check. And then remember, too, that that's just his closing check. He had already gotten all of his money back long ago. And that's the money that he's put forward trying to make it work on the rest of them. So, Jeff, congratulations. If you would stay, though, I'd appreciate it. Is there anybody here tonight that is an investor in Brookside? Would you come up, please? I know there's some out there. Would you grab that for me, please? I'd like to present another check and talk a little bit about Brookside. Sorry, it's not one you can go home and cash. Nikolai?
No,
You've already gotten your check. Or if you're on ACH, we appreciate that, and it was just direct deposited into your account. But if you'll unfold that and hold it, just stand here in the middle, because that picture on the that camera on the ceiling is going to take a picture of you, please. Come on, Tracy. Don't be shy. Come on. Y'all get in. Okay, this is, again, for the information behind. Congratulations. Brookside just sold on August 20th of 2020. Capital raise for Brookside was $8.6 million. Okay, and that was in the fall, late 2017. The distribution back to the investors, $13,802,000 distributed to partners. Same scenario. They've already gotten about 98% of it. The final check will be going out here in another 30 days. Just make sure we close books. But that's a 56.3% total ROI, or an average annual rate of return of 14.7%. So congratulations, Brookside investors. Thank you. Mo, did you get that picture?
Yeah, I
We
did.
got it.
I have a question for online, if
Okay.
you don't mind.
Go ahead.
The question is, if I already have a traditional IRA, can I use it to invest with you guys?
Okay. If you have a traditional IRA, the only thing that is needed, you can only invest a self-directed IRA. So just call a company. If you want to reach out to us, we'll be glad to recommend. But Pensco and Quest are really the two big ones. You just need to call an IRA company. They will convert it for you to a self-directed IRA, do all the paperwork for you, and then you'll be able to invest it into real estate.
It's called a custodian if they look online.
It's called a custodian. Okay, look up Quest IRA, Pensco IRA, Intras. There's lots of different options out there. Or if you want to reach out to us at 817-236-8100, we'll be glad to give you a referral. Okay, there's probably, I don't know, is there anybody in here that is a crossing investor? New crossing, that's okay.
New
Would you
crossing.
help me, please? It's okay. New or old? New or old?
Come
That's
on up.
okay. Come on up, because I need a lot of people to hold this heavy check. Please, please. Now, yes, this is for.
Is that the crossing that, I mean, I know it's
This is the old crossing. For the reason that for those of you who are not, why are they? If they sold it, why are they still in it? We sold crossing to ourselves and to recapitalize it, putting about $2 million back into it to revamp the property and make it another great investment. In fact, we have owned crossing since 2013, okay? Just to make it clear, because I know it could get confusing. 2013, I don't believe, Jeff, you were in it the first time, right?
No, it originally started in 2008.
Okay, I'm sorry, 2008 to 2013, that's correct.
This round, it's been through 2013.
Right, but just and again, this is kind of a unique situation, but Crossing has been with us that long. So 2008, Darwin's owned it since 2008. It's been a DGRE property. In 2013, he again sold it to a next set of partners, of which Jeff was one, and that's where Jeff got that big check from tonight and all that other money. And then we're doing the same thing here in 2021, in that we're selling it to ourselves again and recapitalizing the property and going to do it all over again. So it's a little unique. So I do need some volunteers. Come on up. Come on up. If you're an old or new. Old or new.
Come on up.
So you can help me see old
Yeah.
or new crossing. Old or new. Now, yes, this is specifically for the old, but because it's such a hefty check, we need some help here. Okay, if you can't see it in the back, and Mo's going to get a picture, so smile if you don't mind. Congratulations to Crossing Partners. The capital raise for the crossing, this particular one, was $1.1 million. The check was $5,010,975.90 distributed to partners. 355.54 total ROI, 43.54 average annual rate of return.
Oh, I can get that inside.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what stock market. Thank you all for helping me.
Hey,
Thank you.
Brian, I have another question.
Okay, go ahead, Mo.
The question is, how do you convert your traditional IRA to a solo 401k?
Okay. If we didn't get it before, there is a company that will absolutely do that for you. Again, either Quest or Pensco. There's several different companies. You just need to call them, and they'll go through, do all the paperwork for you. They will convert your traditional IRA into what's called a self-directed IRA. Then you'll be able to get it into the...
I think the question was more towards I think, yeah, it was more towards a solo 401k. There are some different rules. I'm not a tax advisor, obviously, so this is just what I have done in my experience. A self-directed IRA does have the option or the disadvantage of possibly having UBIT, which is unassociated business income tax. Now, that's only comes into play when you get that big check at the end. So I had the big check at the end. I had to think about that, and that's why you were asking the question. Now, the solo 401k is completely different. You have to establish a company in your name and maybe with your partner, and that LLC can create a 401k associated with that LLC. So that's what I did last year, and that's not through any of those companies. They want to have a custodian IRA, and they charge you huge fees. I was able to do a solo 401k through mysolo401k.com or .net. You can look that up as well. And they help you with all the paperwork. I now have checkbook control of my solo 401k. So when this deal comes through, I just, well, this check right here, I'll put it right in that account. I'll write a check and send it in. That's it. I don't have to deal with anyone third party. I have control of that, and I love it. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Jeff. Mo, you have anything else online right now?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
But hey, Brian, but still, even aside from the 401k, I get this question at least 2-3 times a week from people. Is there any way I can tap my IRA and put money in it? Because right now, all I can do is CDs, mutual funds, and what have you. Yes, you go to a self-directed, and yes, there's some fees associated with it, but infinitely better than having a traditional.
Yeah, the bottom line is, and again, as Jeff said for us, thankfully, we're not CPAs, we are not tax advisors. We do have enough experience in that we have dozens and dozens of investors who have done the exact same thing. So we're very familiar with the process. We would just invite you to, again, reach out to a company to do that for you, get it into a self-directed IRA so you can control it. Before I do anything else, I just want to, we had a special guest walk in during the middle of or after the meeting started, not during the middle, that I have not introduced. So Reggie, would you raise your hand? Reggie Betos in the back. Well, thank you, Reggie, for coming. As you heard me introduce Ben and Anand, Reggie is also co-sponsor at 2405 at Park Row property. So again, thank you for being here, Reggie. If anybody's wants to see what that's like, give any of these gentlemen a let them know any questions. So we're going to open it up for just Q&A about anything and everything. Julian, I'm going to ask you to come up. Jeff, I'm going to ask you to come up because I got a feeling this doesn't have to be DGR related. If you want me and Julian to answer, it probably should be. But I can't tell you how many questions I had for Jeff in regards to his very unique job. But any questions at all, we'll be glad to answer. I think we've kind of given an update. All of you know that Brookside and Crossing sold on August 20th. Both of the properties have already given out their big distribution check. A little bit has been held back from both of them just to make sure we clean the books, make sure all the bills have been paid, taxes have been paid, all of that good stuff. As soon as we wind that down, then we'll send that last check out. Julian, anything on the horizon that we need to know about?
What I wanted to say to everybody now is that we have investors across our entire portfolio that have been investors with us for a long time and are also looking for the next investment. So one of the problems, I won't even say problem, let's call it a challenge. One of the challenges that we're having is because the prices keep going up and up and up. So unless you're a little challenged up here, the question is going to jump into your head, okay, well, wait a minute. If prices are going up, up, and up, what about the deals that I'm in, right? That means they're worth a heck of a lot more than they were 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. So let me just wholesale say this. Yes, we at DGRE are every week, every month, looking through our portfolio, making assessments as to what property is prime for sale. Okay, so we are looking at properties that we now have to sell. And that will be you'll see another round of big checks here. But let me temper that by saying that the market that you sell into is going to be the market that you're going to buy into. So you get a great price going out, but we're also going to have to redeploy that money unless you just want to take it home and party with it, right? Which, hey, it's a free country. You can
What,
do whatever you
what about a
want.
refi? What about refinancing?
Well, there's refis, but the challenge to a refi is at some point you get to where a property really plateaus and you
Okay.
cannot continue to raise the income for structural issues, and I won't go into that. I'd rather just stick with, we are in a market that is a seller's market, and so in a seller's market, you sell your lesser performing properties, because the lesser performing properties are the ones that are going to be the more challenging properties to sell when the market is not a seller's market and it's a buyer's market. So therefore you want to divest yourself of those properties now. So we are assessing the portfolio on a weekly and a monthly basis, and we are seriously looking at some dispositions, and we are also, of course, looking feverishly at what next. Brian and I are touring a property tomorrow in North Dallas. I am going to Houston on Thursday with Ben right here. We've identified a property in Houston that has very strong potential, but it is looking for that proverbial needle in the haystack right now, because the market is awash in capital and everybody's looking for the same thing. So, having said that, in a kind of a negative way, the positive is that at DGRE we enjoy a position where we have people calling us, brokerages calling us and saying, hey, Julian, we've got a property coming to market that we think will be perfect for what you guys are looking for. So we're in a position that people are looking for us as purchasers, and so it's just a matter of time before we put another property opportunity out to our investors. However, having said all of that, we're in challenging times right now, it's a paradox, because you can make a fortune on the properties you already own, but then you have to redeploy the capital going back into the market, and that's more of a challenge than it has ever, that in my 30-something years of real estate. So with that, we're also expanding. We have Jeff here, who's going to be working in the south, slightly north-south Florida market.
Correct.
With us in Palm Beach County.
All over South Florida.
Well, yeah,
we're going
but
to be
I'm saying,
looking.
but
We're going to find a metro
That's
service
gonna be
area. that's
right.
gonna-
All right, and then we've got, what's your name over there?
John?
Yeah, I think it's John, right? So John is helping us in Austin, which is a dynamic market. I mean, how can you go wrong in Austin right now? And he and Jeff are the kind of people we need. These are people who live in these markets, people who know the difference between, let me put it in context, if you live in Dallas-Fort Worth, the difference between Highland Park and what's the
Oak Cliff.
yeah, or even Fair Park, exactly, better, more appropriate. Those are the little small nuances that you don't know if you don't operate in those markets, and so we are counting on these guys to help us in that way. So kind of an update and a reassurance that we're looking out for your dollars weekly, monthly.
To Julian's point, and again, we've already sent a message out to the investors of this particular property. So also, there's no reason that I can't announce it here. Silver Creek.
You're gonna steal the thunder?
We've already sent a message out to, if you're, any of
Who's
you,
in Silver Creek?
if you're in Silver Creek. Okay. We hope to have good news for you in the next 10 days or so. But we have already been entertaining tours at Silver Creek. In fact, we gave a company an access agreement today to do kind of a final look. So just know that's a good example of what Julian is talking about. It is kind of a dichotomy in some ways, but absolutely. But just know that you've heard us say this for years, and it's always true. What's in the best interest of the partner? What's in the best interest of the investor? And we took a look at it, and it was the right time. We needed to do that. So anyway, hope to have some, for those of you at Silver Creek, you already knew before you got here tonight.
Yeah.
For those of you not in Silver Creek, you know that it's
But I
also
think that was a little
best.
cryptic. Let me be a little more specific. So within the next, I would say 48 to 72 hours, we're either going to be in contract to sell it or we're not. So for those of you in Silver Creek, we're this far from being in contract to sell it.
I just trying to manage expectations.
Well, I understand, but you know, that's the whole emphasis of marketing a property, is to get it sold.
Hey, Julian,
Yes, sir.
I got a question online. Any updates on Lake Tahoe?
I can give you an update. Is this working? I can't hear myself.
Your batteries died.
Okay. Lake Tahoe. In fact, I was talking to Tracy before the meeting. The bad news is the fires got really, 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 really bad for the Lake Tahoe area. They got within about 3 to 3.5 miles of our property, not only of our properties, but of the town in general of South Lake Tahoe. And guess what? The entire town was evacuated. We certainly evacuated our properties. The good news is, as of last Monday, all clear, go back to town. Everybody went back and is now repopulated South Lake Tahoe, and we're back hard at work at our property. So no issues other than smoke is still prevalent in the area, but that's an update on Lake Tahoe. Somebody asked me, I probably got about half a dozen calls that said, what happens if that burns down? What do we do? Tell them again, Susan. We're going to file an insurance claim, and we're going to have two brand new properties, with including some loss of rents if anybody had to lose their home. So again, we do it properly. We're insured. So it turned out that it was not needed, but that's the answer to the question that I probably got about half a dozen of those questions as it was big time on the news.
However, if it doesn't happen, or let's just say it does come close, we as property owners and managers, we also have a fiduciary responsibility to our tenants, who are our clients. And so we're also there to make sure that their needs are taken care of, whatever they be, that are respective to our responsibilities. So.
And an example of that point is they were out of their home for about 7 days, and we prorated that rent.
Brian.
Good example. Yes, Mo.
I have two questions. First question is, how do I get registered to invest with you guys so that I can deploy cash when you do find the best deal? And then the second question is, any updates on 1019?
Okay, let me go in the order in which you ask them. How do you get involved with us? I would just invite you, for lack of a better, giving you any information right now, just go to www.darwingerman.com. Go to our website. There will be a brief questionnaire there, and just click on Invest, and it'll ask you to fill out a questionnaire. We talk real briefly about a questionnaire. We're not just taking money from everybody and sticking it in an investment, okay? And I'm going to steal a little bit of Julian's thunder. But it's important that when you invest, you're investing in a property or a project that is meeting your investment goals. Just a quick example. If you are absolutely depending upon quick cash flow coming back on a monthly basis, that's what we call a yield play. On the other hand, crossing, for example, this new crossing on the back row, it's more of a value play, which means it's going to be a little while before you get regular cash flow. It's just going to tend to be bigger because we've got to make the $2 million improvement before we can do that. So bottom line is, please reach out to us, or again, if you want to call 817-236-8100, we'll be glad to get you in touch with Julian. When you go online, you can make an appointment with Julian as well, but we would love to talk to you and answer any questions that you might have. An update on 1019. I'm not sure exactly what the update is about. How many of you in 1019? Again, just blowing and going. Those of you who've been in 1019 know that it's already done a refi, which gave everybody about 28% of their initial investment back. Since that time, it's been giving regular distributions every month. So you're still getting a check or an ACH. We appreciate it if it's ACH every single month from 1019. Really, the only thing that's kind of new about 1019 is that we kept some of that money back from the refi to make some additional improvements. So those of you who are in 1019 should have gotten a video. In fact, it came from our group. Did you see that beautiful parking lot on it? And the new fence and the landscaping that was done, which has just helped us keep up. One little thing that's going to be a challenge a little bit on 1019 is that the B&B business, if you know anything about it, short-term rentals, we have 4 B&B units at that property. And we were averaging over the last 4 or 5 months about $12,000 to $15,000 a month from the B&B business, just out of those 4 units. That has pretty much come to a halt. Again, it's not going to hurt the performance of the property long term, but due to the resurgence of the Delta variant and COVID, pretty much the short-term rental business has just been totally kind of whacked out. So
However, I don't think a week goes by. Okay, maybe I'm being a little, let's call it every 2 weeks, I get a solicitation from somebody wanting to buy it. There's, right now, the money that is flowing into this market is unbelievable. So we want to hold on to the property. I think Brian and his team can extract a heck of a lot more NOI. How much so, he can quantify, I can't. But I think for that property, we have decided that it's too early to sell it, not because of anything other than we can think we can get a lot more out of it. But there is a tremendous amount of interest in that market right now. In fact, we're actually looking to add more units to that mix down in that market.
and it's cash flowing. So yes, Nikolai.
Yeah, two questions. Any updates on the insurance claims?
Yeah, I could give you lots of updates.
And the second one, updates on rental assistance collection.
Okay, I'm going to do those in reverse order, if you don't mind. Rental assistance, if you were with us last month, I think I put a figure up here. And through the rental assistance program, our portfolio had gone back and collected about $875,000 worth of money. We're almost at $1 million now, and I told you we still had a little bit to go. So rental assistance is just from any avenue, but the vast majority of that, Nikolai, has been from Texas Rent Relief Program, which was the money that the federal government gave to the states to pass out. All through this process, Nikolai, it's funny, all through this process, they've been telling us, we're almost out of money, get your stuff in, we're out of money, any day we're going to cut this off. Those of you who were here last week or joined us online know that I put one of our employees, Jessica, great gal, she took charge and just ran with it and was really responsible for the success of that program. Keep in mind, that's about $1 million that people did not pay us over the last 16 to 18 months because of the eviction moratorium, CDC moratorium, for whatever reason that they could not pay. So we've been able to recoup that and give that back to the properties. So that talks about rental assistance. The reason I mentioned that, Nikolai, the funny part is we're now being told that, oh, I'm sorry, the government made a mistake. We've only spent about 40 to 50% of our money. So we're going to open this floodgates back up and make it available to people again. On one hand, you think, that's great news for me, right? Let's go get some more money. Here's what it does, though. Here's the downside of that, Nikolai. It creates an environment out there where those people who were not already paying and probably already got bailed out once, God bless them, needed some help, got it. Now they're saying, well, they're advertising on the radio that they're going to open the floodgates again, so now I'm going to quit paying you again. And in 3 months, we'll go back and catch up again. So it's created a vicious cycle that is not really great for us, but we're managing it through it. And if they open it up, we going to take advantage of it? Absolutely, we're going to take advantage of it. So, okay.
So
I didn't forget your second question.
no, and so the reason I jumped in is because I think Brian's not giving himself and his team enough credit. If you truly knew the hoops that the government makes you jump through to get this money, I'm not kidding you when I tell you this. They literally will tell you have to have your paperwork in by Sunday between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Literally, I'm not kidding. And I have spoken to scores of people who have given up because it's so arduous. But Brian decided that he would take Jessica, who's sharp as could be, and make her the point person, and she is almost exclusively working on TRR, and that has made a huge, huge difference to you guys as investors. So I just think all investors in our portfolio should be thanking Brian for what he does and his team.
Thank you, Julian. It really is the staff. I mean, Jessica took it point blank, went to the managers, and he did it. We'll follow whatever rules we got to follow, but Julian is right. Many of my counterparts in the management business just said, we're putting more time and effort into it, and we don't know we're going to get anything back out of it. Well, guess what? We got $1 million. And
One last question.
one more. Let me answer Nikolai's second question. Is insurance updates. We really had good, high dollar claims on 5 properties, okay? We have reached a settlement on only one of those claims. So remember I told you last month, our friends, those insurance companies that said, don't worry about it. Do what you got to do. Just take good pictures. Keep your invoices. We're going to, no problem. We're what, 6 months, 7 months getting on past winter. Uri is the winter storm. In case you didn't know, it was named Uri. Bottom line is we're not giving up. It's just that we have not agreed to settlements on still several properties. 1019, Riverbend, Gold Creek are the primary three. But we're not letting that stop us. We're going ahead and finishing the work. At Gold Creek, we do have 5 down units that have been down since the winter storm. That construction has started, so that'll help, obviously, Gold Creek as we go. But it hadn't affected the distributions. We're still sending out distributions. Riverbend, we only had 2 units. And, again, that was more of a, it's not as much, I really can't, it sounds like I'm blaming the insurance company, Nikolai, and I am. They drag their feet on everything. And again, remember I told you last month, when I send a bid that they're going to approve, it's only good for 21 days. Because of what's going on with the supply chain, the contractors are only guaranteeing for 21 days. If they don't approve it within 21 days, 22 days, they send it back to me. I say, I'm sorry, it's not good anymore. I got to send you a new bid because prices have gone up 10%. So it's just, it's a game. They like playing the game. It's the insurance game. It's the 3 Ds, deny, defer, delay. Deny, defer, delay. Right.
Any update on the corners?
And again, it's just not, and again, I'll answer any specific questions you might have after about a specific property, but we're still working through 4 claims. We're getting all the work done. 90% of the work's already completed anyway. It's just those 5 down units and 2 at Riverbend. And then we'll be, we're not skipping a beat. We're not skipping a beat. We're not skipping a beat.
One more time. So I just said it's property management. I don't say that lightly. There are no shortage of people out there who are put themselves out as sponsors, right? You guys have had solicitation? Okay. And this is not a knock on them, okay? It's just the state at which their business is in. And when you first start out, you're the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, the accountant, the property manager or property supervisor, asset manager, and everything. There are only so many hours in a day and only so many brain cells that one person can spend on a property, okay? DGRE has a team, and we have compartmentalized all the operations. This is the Army that takes care of the property once it's purchased, and you can buy a property easily. You cannot run a property easily. And the kind of things that he is mentioning sound simple because, oh, this is what I'm doing, this is what we're doing. Guys, let me tell you, this is serious, serious business. If this guy and his team were not working diligently day after day, taking care of the small details, the details that a standalone sponsor would never have the ability or the time to do, you would never get the returns that they promised you when they put the PPM out. This is how we make money for you guys. And yes, it may sound like a commercial for DGRE, and I'm sorry if it sounds gratuitous, but the fact of the matter it's fact. Unless you have a team that handles everything, one person could never do it all, ever do it all. And this guy takes care of business. So I'm sorry to,
Thank you, Julie.
No, I'm serious. Because I'm not only the hair club president, I'm also a member. I'm serious. I have money in when the checks are being
We
written,
all
you
do,
don't
yeah.
see me come up here because I don't want any of but I put my own hard-earned money into these projects just like you guys do.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions about anything? Any questions for Jeff or yes?
On
there was some thought, or I was thinking, that there would be some properties that had over-projected on what they were doing, and that as COVID got deeper, that those properties would start showing up on the market because the people that, like you were just talking, poor management couldn't manage them.
Mm-hmm.
Are they showing up, but they're just getting sucked up so fast?
Well,
Cash available?
If you don't mind, just kind of summarize
yeah. So the question is, what happened to all of the properties that were going to be coming to market because of COVID, right? Foreclosures were going to be running rampant. Well, that never happened, partly because of our government, who was willing to step in and spend billions and billions of dollars in propping up our economy, which this is not a political statement. Depends on which side of the equation you fall on, but they did. And so, unfortunately, they skewed to the tenant side, where you don't have to pay your rent and you can't get evicted, but you still have to pay the bank. Okay, so that's as political as I'm going to get. The answer to your question is this. It was really not a true recession for us in the housing business. Unlike 2008, 9, and 10, where it was a global recession and it went across the entire spectrum of the economy, this was more centric on business and people who could not get to work, people who truly got sick. In 2008, 9, and 10, people who didn't get sick, they lost their jobs. It didn't matter what level you were in the corporate structure. You lost your job, particularly if you were in the upper echelons. Well, this was more of a tap on the brakes, and then the economy, and particularly in the U.S., where I'm happy to be an American, God bless America, we were able to figure out that quickly, not all of us have to lose our jobs. And there's a company called Zoom that their stock went through the roof because of it. And so therefore, people got to keep their jobs, unlike in 2008, 9, 10. And so therefore, not everybody lost their jobs and not everybody stopped paying rent. So therefore, there was not a market awash in foreclosures. And so
Interest rates, cap rate compression.
yeah, and so we thought, okay, people are going to stop buying because rents are going to start falling, because the way we value multifamily assets is based on net operating income. That didn't happen. That didn't happen for a couple of reasons, and I can wax eloquently for an hour on this stuff, but the short answer, okay, medium answer, because I've been talking now, is that it did not happen. There was not a 2008, 9, 10 occurrence, and what ended up happening was it was just a pause for about 4 months, and then it was back to normal. Everybody realized, okay, this is not as bad as we thought it was going to be, and nothing changed. In fact, if anything, in the last 6 months, and excuse me, if you think about it, it seems like it was yesterday, and then at the same time, it seems like it's been years, but COVID really only kicked in March of 2020. So we're only like 16 months into this. The prices in the last 6 months, at least here in DFW, are going up between $5, $10, depending on the area, $5, $10, $15,000 a unit per month. Per month. We are looking at a property tomorrow, 1969 construction, $180,000 a door. Okay, if that does not illustrate what the market is doing, Dallas-Fort Worth has turned into a Tier 1 market. And what does that mean? For those of you who are not in the real estate business, Tier 1 is the upper echelons of real estate. That was relegated to New York, Chicago, San Francisco, LA. We would laugh at these markets that they would accept yields at 3% and 4% yields. We're there. We're there. Unless you've been living under a rock, they're moving to Texas. And it isn't just the people moving to Texas, it's the major corporations. So you go to, John would know, go to Austin, it's booming tech-wise. Okay, is Apple going to move out of Cupertino? No. But are they going to have major operations there? Yes. Is Amazon, Tesla, they're all opening major operations in Texas. And so it's not just the residents, it's the businesses that are bringing the residents here. And so now what's happened to Dallas, good old affordable Dallas-Fort Worth, where people were used to paying 25 and 30% of their monthly income towards their rent, it's now going to 40, 45%. 50% of their income. We used to laugh at people paying $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 for one little small studio apartment in Manhattan, and we used to think, how idiot. I mean, are you kidding me? That's happening now in DFW, and that's what's happened to the market, and that's why these prices have exploded, and it's blowing all of our minds who never lived in that market, because we don't really know what it's like to live in a market where the rents are that high. Oh, and yeah, money's pouring out of the stock market because they've made it all now, and everybody's going, oh my gosh, this bubble's happening. And in fact of the matter is, you don't have the tax benefits. You don't have the accelerated depreciation, the bonus depreciation that you get with real estate. And so now is the time. And another thing, we're not economists here, although we like to think we're a little bit smarter than what we really are. But we try to keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on. Every person that we know that has an insight into this economy, an insight into this market that we can talk to is telling us the same thing. There's been a sharp paradigm shift in DFW, and we are now growing up. We're no longer the 13, 14-year-old with pimples on our face. We're now the good-looking 18, 19, 20-year-old, and along with that comes big rent prices, and we are moving way up, and we're not looking back. And so anybody who thinks that we can underwrite like we used to a year ago, 2 years ago, you're going to get left behind. And we have got about 2 to 3 years before it starts to level off. And so now's the time to put your money in and hit it when, the market's hot. I mean, that's my opinion. And that's a formulated opinion from having multiple conversations constantly with people in the know. But I'm telling you, I'm putting my money in the market constantly. That's where we are. If that was a long-winded
Brian,
question to your answer.
I have two more questions for you.
Okay, go ahead. Questions.
The first question is, any updates on the corners? And the second question is, when will Frankfurt Station start distributions?
I get that I've got that question almost every day since we acquired Frankfurt Station. Again, Frankfurt Station is just blowing and going. It's just outstanding, fabulous. Everything's going really good. I just, again, all I would ask is let us have it for 3 full months and then take a look at the financials and see where we are. It literally has not been 3 months yet. So. It ain't even three full financial cycles. In other words, 3 full months uninterrupted of operations, and then the following month you do your financials and you take a look at it, and that'll let us know where we are. We just want to make sure that when we do a distribution, it's a sustainable distribution that is meaningful and sustainable. Okay.
But having said that, where are we in our track?
If you just want to talk about some numbers, I mean, again, you guys know we started there on March the 8th. Of this year, take over management. We did not acquire the property until May 27th, but we started management of that property before we bought it, and it was at 38% occupancy. We're now at 98% occupancy. We're begging to have more units, and I mean, we just, it's just.
Where are we on our performance in terms of where?
Well, I'll talk about July because, again, we haven't finished August financials, of course. But in July, the pro forma income was supposed to be right around $270,000, and we closed the month at $310. So kind of give.
No, that bears repeating and repeating
Okay.
louder.
The pro forma rent at the end of July was supposed to be about $270,000. We closed the month at $310. Okay? Now, what the difference in that is, remember that when Darwin put this in front of everybody, we assumed that it was going to take, or we conservatively projected it was going to take about 6 months to lease this place up. I know I said it was 38% occupied, but they had it for a year, and it was at 38% occupied. So when Darwin came to me and said, how long is it going to take you to get to 90? I said, give me 3-4 months. He said, okay, I'll give you 6. Well, the staff did it in 3 months. So the staff did it in 3 months. They really done well. So. Absolutely, gorgeous property. In regards to the corners, I'm not sure exactly specifically what the question is. Actually, at the end of September, for those of you who don't, will be our 1-year anniversary at the corners. Pretty much everything as far as the CapEx has been completed, or certainly will be by the end of the month. But it's again, it's really it's good. It's meeting pro forma numbers. It's not a Frankfurt station, but it's meeting pro forma numbers. And again, you always hear us say there's singles, doubles. You know, it's in a little bit more challenging location. And again, it's hit harder because of where it's located. It's hit harder by the Texas rent relief. And again, that's one of those properties you heard me talk about earlier that every time the government says we're going to give money, it just kind of not everybody, but a good percentage of your tenant base, okay, I'm not paying anymore. And then you kind of start that process all over again. But no worries, no concerns. And I'm sorry, there was another question somewhere.
But in answer to the question about Frankfurt Station, I would suspect probably 60 more days and
Yeah, maybe as little as 30. Again, again, what we want to do is get 30 days, 3 full months of operation in, make sure that we know everything, make sure the financials are exactly where we think they are, because again, there's still bills coming in. I'll give you an example, and I hope nobody from the city of Carrollton is listening. But our water bill, this is 204 units, beautiful pool. We have an irrigation system. Our total water bill there is $2,000 a month. We know that cannot be right. But they're telling us, you got all the bills, pay it. Okay, no problem. But to be a good fiduciary responsibility shows toward you, we're also escrowing another $10,000 or putting back another $10,000 every month, because I have a sneaking feeling 6 months down the road they're going to say, oh, we found the problem. I mean, again, that's 87. It's like 87 cents a door. I mean, come on, give me already.
So this is what I'm talking about. And again, I expect at least a C note in my pocket before I leave tonight.
Okay.
This is what I'm talking about. So this is where the rubber meets the road. This is management understanding a potential train wreck coming. An inexperienced manager would go, wow, let's just, and then start distributing.
Yep.
But no, Brian decided that the prudent thing to do is to put money aside because this may be coming down the pipe. If it doesn't happen, great.
Guess what? Bonus distribution.
But we're smart enough to know that it is a potential.
But anyway, to answer the question, give me 90 full days, then let us look at the financials. So it's really 120 full days by the time you get the financials, and then we'll look at it and be happy to announce some distributions coming. Okay. Are we making any money off the dog shampoo? He's referencing Frankfurt Station again. There is a dog. It literally is a car wash for a dog. That's literally what it is. And yes, we are making money off of it. I wouldn't say it's paid for itself yet, but
Here's another one. So we made an offer on a property in Carrollton in the same submarket. I don't know, maybe 2 miles south of it, about 2 miles south of this. 2015. Now, mind you, Frankfurt Station is 2020. So this property's a little older, beautiful property, and price guidance on it was $66 million for the high side. 64 to 66. That's what they'll tell you. A range. We're targeting this to this. We toured it. We loved the asset. It was gorgeous. We're like, oh, we want this. Made an offer at the higher range of $66 million. We made it into the best and final round, and what happens? Broker, who's a friend of mine I've known for 10 years, Julian, man, we want you guys to be in, but you told me that you're giving it your best, and I'm telling you this thing's going to go over $70 million.
What was that per door?
$250,000 a door. Now, let me put this in context. What did we pay at Frankfurt Station?
193 all in.
What about Gold Creek?
No, forget Gold. I mean, we're like
128 all in.
yeah. So for those of you that are in Frankfurt Station, yes, you're sitting nice and pretty.
Okay. Not that we want to cut it off. I'll be glad to stay as long as you want to, and Julian will, and Jeff I know is going to have a lot of questions for him personally. Thank you for coming. Thank you for helping us celebrate a little bit. This is the good part. I mean, when Julian talks about the grind on a daily basis, when we get to present those checks, or when I call Dillard and say, hey, I need you to send out about $13 million worth of checks.
And also,
How quickly you want them out? Tomorrow.
you heard me use the term that a rising tide lifts all boats, and yes, in the last 6-7 years has been great. But when I tell you a story like Frankfurt Station, there will be a time in the future, I don't know if it's going to be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now, where there's going to be a group of people standing here when we have sold Frankfurt Station. There's going to be a huge check, and there will be a time. So we are taking our time. We'll only bring a deal to you that we feel absolutely confident is the right deal to bring and put before you.
Hey Brian, one
Yes.
last question.
Okay.
When did Frankfurt Station officially close?
May 27th, 2021. 3:47 p.m. in the afternoon. And that was a day late, by the way. It was a day late.
Friday, right?
Yeah, it was a day late.
And we don't like closing on Fridays.
Anyway, thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. We're not here without you. Your group, we're just kind of overseeing things, but thank you for being here. Always your trust is just paramount with us. So again, I invite you to talk to Ben, talk to Anand, talk to Reggie, talk to John if you want to talk about some of the stuff that's going on and how they're involved with DGRE as well. Talk to Jeff about his experience. I could talk to him all day long about anatomy stuff. It just kind of freaks me out a little bit, but it's a necessary job, right? And thank you for being willing to do it. So, absolutely. Julian, thanks for being here. Thank everybody online. We will have a meeting next month. We're hoping to have an economist-type guru that's going to talk about exactly what's coming. Julian kind of gave you a little bit of preview of what the people that we talk to, what they're telling us. But this is the guy who, when he speaks, the market shakes. Okay? So we're hoping to have him next month. We'll certainly let everybody know, and you'll get an invitation. So again, thank you for coming, everybody.